Hello, my tired, stressed, and very nearly finished humans. So what I'm going to look at today, or right now, is um, how to create a Gantt chart. In the question, it's called the cascade chart as well. They're invented by Mr. Gantt, so I'm going to stick with it and give him the credit. So a Gantt chart is used to kind of understand your project. It has a slightly different kind of outcome than the early time, late time graph, and it has only appeared as a kind of add-on after you've figured out the project scheduling chart with the early and late time. I'm going to do it as if we haven't done that, and just make a note of what'll be different if we haven't got our early time, late time chart. It'll give you exactly the same answer. It'll give you the same critical path. It might be more difficult to read given that I suppose we're used to having the early time above, the late time below, and just being able to read off the float, the difference between those two. But what we're going to look at is this question, and this question the first part of this is to figure out the early and late time for each one of these activities, or each one of these tasks. But we're going to pretend that hasn't happened, and we're just going to build a Gantt chart from scratch. Just with that one little thing I need to talk about. So, to hospital, who cares? So the nodes of the network represent events or points in time during the project. So those points cancel. Basically, it's each one of those points is when an activity can start. So from the source node, A, B, and C can start. G can start from B, and you have those dashed lines to indicate which nodes kind of are directly dependent on stuff in the past, which may not be a task. So you can think of them as kind of tasks with time 0, but we just need to see, for example, this guy here, that node that leads to J and I, it depends directly on E, but it also depends directly on B. And it's just a way to be able to indicate a couple of things happening at once without the graph getting messy and unreadable. But so we just have a little dashed chart, so dashed line. So a cascade chart is a type of bar chart which may be used to represent a project schedule. The duration of each activity is represented by the width of a horizontal bar for that activity with time on the horizontal axis. The float time for an activity is represented by a rectangle drawn using dotted lines to the right of the bar for that activity. The top row of the cascade chart is used for a critical path. So if we don't know what the critical path is before we start, we can't just put stuff on the top row and then that's the critical path. We just ignore that line. So we are pretending. So that's the bit I need to talk about. So we are ignoring that because we don't know what it is, and we can't know what it is until the end. But if you do know, because if you have done the early late time already, you can just put those activities in at the top, and I'll talk to that in a bit. So we're not going to worry about where anything is, but we're going to say the duration of each activity is represented by the width of the horizontal bar for that activity. So, for example, F, wherever it is, F will be something of width 4. And then if it's, let's say it had a float time of 2, you would just do dotted thing there to indicate that the earliest F can start is there, the latest F can end is there, and that is the size of it there. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start from the source node, end in the sync node. Very similarly to how we'll do the early late time thing, we're going to find the early times first and then work backwards to get the late times. And it's nice, it gives you an instruction how to do that it's solid, and then the dotted line for the extra. And I presume it's also to do with the requirement to only use black pen, that you can't use color, so don't worry about the thing not being pretty. So I'm just going to move all of that over, and we're here. So it has nicely given us our days. Hopefully it's not going to go over 34, but we'll see. So what I will do now is I will get actually change this guy to just a black pen. So what's happening is, what we need to look at is what are the things that only depend on the source node, and that's A, B, and C. So what we're going to do is we're going to write A, B, and C, put their A 14 blocks across, B 12 blocks, C 14, and that's kind of writing in the earliest time that A, B, and C can happen, and it also gives you how long each activity takes. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to go to here, I'm going to start here, so that is our A, is that one, because A is 14 and starts at 0. B is 12. Now I'm gonna just do this. I might run out of space, but we'll cope with it. Well, we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. B is that, and then C is 14. Okay. So that is our A, B, and 14. That is our A, B, and C. They are the earliest times A, B, and C can start and finish. Now what we do, we look at what depends on A or B or C, and A or D and E only depend on A. So that means we can start activity D immediately after activity A. So the earliest time D can start is 14. So 14 and D is 12. 14 is 26, so that goes up to here. So that's the earliest time D can finish. E is 5, so again it starts at 14. E is 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we have G. Now G depends on B and C. If you see that dashed line here, C has to finish before G can start. So that means G can only start at 14. So G starts at 14 and is 3. That's supposed to be a G. And the same idea, F can only start at 14 because it goes from C, and that's 4. Okay. So that's F. It looks like an E, but it's an F. Let's just do that. Right. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now what? We have, from D we have L, but L depends on J, and J depends on E, so we got to put in J first. So J depends on E, so that's wherever E ends. So E ends on 19, and add in 11 for J. But actually J also depends on B and C, but C ends on 14, so E ending on 19 is the earliest everything can be ready. So J is 19 plus 11, so it goes up to 30. We are dangerously close to running out of space. J. And I does the same thing, so I, J, K, Well, we'll figure out what's going on. So I is, sorry, I got distracted. I is 11 again, and it starts at the same time. So let's do the same thing. So that I and J happen at the same time. H then depends on F, G, and E, and B, and C. So what's the latest? H can start. It depends on E again, doesn't it? So it's the same thing. That's H, and it is a thing of length 12. Uh-oh, we're going to run out of vertical space. It's H. And K depends on everything, like everything that as well, E and G and F. And we're going to just say it is, K is 13, so I'm going to go up to 13. Is it 13? 13 from E. So that's going to bring us up to, let's just wait 1 second. What did I get wrong there? Did I get something wrong there? My H is, starts at 19 and goes up. So I've made it, just done what, these bars slightly wrong. So let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 11, 11, 12, and 13. So we just have to put up with the K being there. And then finally we have L. And you know, what you could do on the exam is when you've graphed it, just put a little line under it just to show that you've actually put it onto the chart. That way you won't forget one. And so I'm now going to do L. So L depends on J and D. And J ends there, so L goes there, right. And so that is all the activities in at their early times. What we need to figure out now is there a float available for any of these activities? So can any of them be pushed later? And the two that finish on 32, which I hope is correct. I know that one of them is definitely right, but if I've made a mistake, we'll spot it. So the two that finish on 32 can't be pushed later. So what we need to do is we need to look at, say, the latest one there is H, maybe. Just let me change the pen to slightly smaller. Sorry. So now, so looking at these things, we want to look at L, I, H, and K. Those are the ones that go into the sync node. Which of these can be, if any, can be pushed back a bit? And H and I can both be pushed back, can't they? H can go 1 day late. I can go 2 days late. Again, my graphs, this is awful because it's this thing, and I have to draw big for the video, but it will look a lot better when you do it on the exam on the day, hopefully. So of the ones that go into the sync node, I and H can definitely get moved late, but none of the others can. So then we look at the ones that feed into those. So we're going backwards to find the late time. So what about J? And maybe we can, we can put 2 lines now that we've dealt with the early times and late times for these. So then what feeds into, say, L, and J feeds in. So can J be pushed back at all? No, J can't, because L depends directly on J, and L can't move, and L has no float. So J can have no float. Grand. So let's look at what's next. Say G and F, they go into H. So G and F go into H, what's it, and K, so they actually can go. So G and F can, let's see, I think G and F can go one, or, yeah, so see, the G and F go into H and K according to our little graph. So we have with these two which go here, which is required before H and K starts. So if there's any flexibility in H and K, that can feed directly into G and F. So there is flexibility for H, but it's not for K. So that means that F only has the one extra bit of freedom and G has two. Both of those can finish at the latest when K has to start. Then let's have a look at, say, D. So D can only finish, or has to have finished by the time L starts, which is, oh, very late. So D has a lot of flexibility. Go all the way to here. That's cool. E now. E directly has direct dependencies in J, I. So D is done. G and F are done. So is there any flexibility in J, I, H, or K? And there's no flexibility in K or J or L, so E can't move. So E there is done, probably part of the critical path. Now what's next? So A depends, or it's D and A depends, other way around. D and E depend on A, but there's no flexibility in E, so there's no flexibility in A. What depends on then B? So B, J, I, H, K, and G. So what is the latest time? So the latest time we can start those and still be finished. So G can get pushed back 2, F can get pushed back 1. F isn't a part of that. So I think we can push B back 2 because G can get moved on 2. So if B, and there's lots of arrows here, so I'm going to just put this in and then think, is that right? I think, is it 2 or is it more than 2? I know it's more. So what's happening is, so B depends or influences when J and I and H and K can start. So what's the latest time for those ones? It's here. So it's possible that's the last time B can end. Now I'm just going to check now. But we have G, which G definitely has to, we'll push it back earlier. So G, the latest G can end is there. So the latest G can start is 17. So the latest G can start is here. Is there anything else upon which B depends? That's earlier than that. B, no. So there we go. So that's the latest because G is the earliest thing that has to happen that depends directly on B. So B has a float of 4 there. And then let's look at C, and I think C has no flexibility, but we'll look at it. So C is 14, F has a flexibility of 1. Oh, C does have a slight flexibility. It has a, if we push F back 1 and G back 2, F back 1 would be here. So C has a single, that should be more dotted. Again, you guys can do this easier without having to battle with OneNote. So, and there is your Gantt chart made for your project schedule. Now, the really useful thing, now I'll just pause this and have a look and go back and make sure you're fine, and then I'm going to just keep waffling at you. So the critical path here is that, first of all, is the stuff that has to, that if any change in it happened, it would delay the entire project. So what are the things that kind of go one after another after another? I'm still skeptical of K. I feel like I've made a mistake with the numbers on K, but I know I've got the critical path right. So the critical path is L, J, E, and A. And it is possible that there's a second critical path where you'd go K. Let's see if I can. So K, E, K, E, A. If I haven't made a mistake, I just have a feeling I did, but it is 29 degrees and I'm too tired to go back over it right now. I will if anyone has any questions. So what this tells us, though, is we can look at this very quickly and see what's happening on day 28, what's happening on day 13, what's happening on day 6, and we can see what's going on. Say, oh, wait a minute, there's way too much going on there. Why don't we push one of these back or forward, or to enable a bit of calm in the project? So, for example, this says the hospital manager visits the project on day 18. So on day 18 is this line here. So what could be happening on day 18? So D, E, G, and F. And it's not as obvious to see that from our early time, late time graph. Apparently what used to happen in the past was these things would happen and you'd have a string which would mark the day, and you'd move it forward every day to see what should be happening. Are you on track? And if stuff started falling behind, if stuff wasn't completed when it should have been, you'd know you're not on track and the project's going to be delayed. So the advantage of this is that we can look at, see that those are D, E, G, and F are the things that could be happening. Now E definitely has to be happening on that day. G doesn't have to be, so you have some flexibility in whether or not you have G happening. F doesn't have to happen, and D actually doesn't have to be happening. So if for some reason you didn't want D, E, F, and G all on at the same time, you could move stuff around. Or if maybe you said, well, D is a big thing, so we're going to get E, G, and F finished as much as possible and then do D, you can have E, G, and F on before that line and move D to after. So there's things you can do with Gantt charts that you can't do as easily with this early time, late time things, even if I prefer the early time, late time things, because my drawing is less than good. I would recommend you do this yourself to make sure it's right and make sure that I haven't made a mistake with that K critical path. it is possible there's more than one critical path. I just have a feeling when I did this yesterday, I didn't get that. I could have made a mistake with that one. But please let me know if you'd like me to go over anything with the Gantt charts. They're okay. I reckon you're gonna, if it happens, it'll probably be after the fact, and once you've got your early time, late time chart. So you just write your critical path along the top, and then you'd fill in the stuff when it has to happen, depending on, based on the dependencies, which I will happily do again, or do a video for that if you wish. But I think if you can start it from scratch, then you'll be able to fill it in if you know everything before that. So yeah, I hope that helped.